Yeah, and to be frank, I've never had that like feeling na, oh, when I grow up, I will be like this. I had different, I have different
concepts.
answers. Yeah, parang, I want to be like this, I want to be like this, etc. I think at one time I wanted to be a neuroscientist or a neurosurgeon. Yeah. So it always depends on what was the most recent article, paper I read. So sabi ko, ano ba to? Parang walang direksyon. But then, really, when you're confronted, it's really where you find yourself at. It's a decision to engage in your circumstances. So what happens to me now, I either do this or I either do that. So when I was, well, flunking out of molecular biology, to be frank,
that was a clear sign already.
Clear sign. And in fact, my professor said, okay, maybe you're more a political animal. And I said, oh, yes, ma'am.
Just to get that, because you had to recognize right then and there that this wasn't for you anymore.
At that time also, I had a scholarship. So there was a little bit at stake in terms of financials. I had the DOST SEI scholarship. So do I let that go? I mean, I could still have pursued and said, I will finish this and I'll get another degree. Or will I lose a few more years in something that clearly my heart isn't in? So I said, yeah, let's take the plunge. And when I shifted to journalism, they only could credit a few of the subjects I took because they weren't accredited. For example, mathematics. I was taking math 53, 54, 55, the advanced mathematics.
Flashback ako, ayoko
no. In journalism, they ask you to take math 1.
Of course. Advanced ka na. So, hindi counted.
So, sabi ko, sige, okay na rin na you spend a few more years because these are the circumstances. So we have to deal it. You just have to make the choice.
But what was the motivation then? Because any person in that predicament would really have a hard time deciding. What made you so sure then that, okay, this is where I'm going to go and I'm going to go all in here. Never mind if I lose that scholarship. There must have been, something that was fueling why you had that resolve to continue on.
The support. I remember during that time or around that era, there was this commercial, Suportahan Ta Ka. There was.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a commercial of a young man shifting from medicine to fine arts. And then the father says, I think PROMD pa siya because I'm also PROMD. So the feeling that your family has your back was, well, incredible when I come to look at it. But before, it was just like, well, you have to support me if I wanted to shift, if I wanted to add on a few years. I think I did 2.5 additional years in UP. That's tuition, but then also that time tuition was a little bit lower than right now. Oh, sorry, tuition is free in UP supposedly now, but before mas maliit siya, parang 600. So it's more of cost-benefit analysis. So at the end of the day, it's not about what you lost. You don't focus on that. It's what about you gained, and then you just look forward.
Kasi there's no point.
Yeah,
there's no point in regret.
Spilled milk.
Yeah. But fast forward to now. Of course, wala atang linggo na lumalagpas na hindi na naririnig yung boses nyo or na nakikita kayo sa television because, of course, of what you do. At ang kapalit nito is, the vitriol that you get, the attacks that you get. What's the most difficult part of defending human rights?
I would say that the most difficult part is always at the time of perpetration. Why do these human rights continue to be violated? It's, for me, I mean, I wouldn't be here if there weren't human rights violated. So sometimes I would even think na, teka, wala na bang nangyayari? Parang pwede na bang magpahinga? But as human rights are being violated, and when there are no others who will stand up, and that's exactly where I found myself around 2016, when the war on drugs was ongoing. People were asking for answers as to how to deal with police abuses, etc. At that point, I was a young lawyer, but I was part of NUPL and I was an officer. I would tell them, I can share with you a few things, but I'm a young lawyer. Maybe you can ask somebody else. But they would always come back to me and say, attorney, wala nang iba. Kaya I found myself really stepping up to the plate because nobody else wanted to, kumbaga, to talk about police abuses, banggain yung police at that time. For me, clearly what was at stake was security. But then somebody else has to do it.
But you were up against a Goliath.
Absolutely. But at that point, you don't look at what you're up against. You look at what you stand to gain. And at that time, we stood to gain clarity, how police should really conduct killings. And we had a very particular point about the killings in the course of police operations or drug abuses or drug cases. They would always say, nanlaban yan, so quits na, tapos na. But as lawyers, I mean, no, that's a legal defense. And there is a second crime. If you say there's a first crime committed, there was a by bust or possession of drugs, the second crime was the killing, and the police are the perpetrators. We need to investigate that. In the narrative of Nanlaban, you should not. Tapos na yan, okay na yan. Hindi na natin pakikialaman yan. Ayaw na magpaimbestiga ng pamilya. So that's where we came in, emphasizing that no, these are human rights abuses and have to be looked at.
It's been, what, 10 years?
10 years.
It's been 10 years. You now have that case pending before the ICC, the confirmation of charges, at least a decision on that. If it's going to be confirmed or not, going to happen latter part of April, if I'm not mistaken. When I ask you, if I ask you what keeps you going, maybe if I'd asked you maybe 2017, 2018, what keeps you going, maybe you would have said justice, for the victims. But now it's before the ICC. It's a different battle altogether. What keeps you going at this point?
Well, at this point, it's one, to be specific, it's the case. So we want to move this case along further. So after confirmation of charges, that's where the battle really lies, trial. So during trial, technically the victims don't need to prove the case, but we would like to present our views and concerns. So I'm helping out the victims put forth their views and concerns before the court, and for some, they're quite advanced. Even their legal arguments and political analysis, the court appreciates that. For example, what would you feel if these things, etc., turn out this way? Or for example, what do you feel about the co-perpetrators? And then the victims, I'm happy to say they've been so empowered, so educated, that they can discuss already what the terms of co-perpetration are, what the parameters of the court's jurisdiction would be, only the most responsible, and so forth. So for me, that's a win, but we have a long way to go.
When you talk about, I mean, that's within, the confines of the discussions between you and the victims' families and all that, and your kindred spirits at NUPL and everyone helping the victims' families. Outside of that safe space, though, is the vitriol, the attacks.